Jed Spence, that is how you make an impact. He's had to wait a long time for his first start for Tottenham, but he gets an assist 30 seconds into the game yesterday at St Mary's. Welcome back to the Ben Bowman YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing well. God, we needed that, didn't we? 5-0 away at Southampton last night. An excellent performance, an excellent first half performance from Tottenham against a pretty pitiful Southampton, but we still learned a lot from the game. If you are new, please make sure to subscribe, to like the video as well. We're going to be breaking down everything we learned from yesterday's game. I'm going to be talking about Pape Matar Sarr in a lot of detail. I thought it was an excellent, very mature performance in midfield from him yesterday. James Maddison making us tick once again. And how I saw a lot of what we saw against Manchester City at St Mary's yesterday. I thought there was a lot of similarities between the two performances in terms of how we set up and in terms of how we built out from the back as well. And I think James Maddison and Pape Matar Sarr had a lot to do with that. Obviously, this is how we set up. We went 11 for 11 on the prediction on the video on Saturday. Lucas Bergvall getting his first ever Premier League start. We'll talk about him as well. Dane Kulusevski on the right. I want to talk about Kulusevski as well because there's naturally a lot of discourse around what his best position is. But I think with Jed Spence in the team, we might be having another conversation about that, and we're certainly going to talk about that in this video. A lot of people naturally will talk about the second half performance yesterday from Spurs. I have seen some people moaning about it, but it is kind of proof that a lot of Spurs fans will kind of just moan about Spurs for the sake of it. But yeah, yesterday, it kind of went pretty much perfectly, other than the Destiny Udogie injury, which Ange just said is precautionary. He wanted to play on, but they didn't want to take any chances. We have heard that one before, but hopefully that is the case with Destiny. Other than that, it went pretty much perfectly. A really convincing performance, a massive confidence booster for the players as well, especially going into a massive game against Manchester United. And in that second half, we were just able to take the foot off the gas and just control the game. Obviously, Ange, game management's been a big question mark over him and these players. Obviously, when you're 5-0 up, you are afforded a lot more of a luxury in terms of how you can manage a game. But it was great from Spurs yesterday, and it was great from Jed Spence to kick off the game. Let's just take this back to the start of the move, because obviously this goal is so much about James Maddison's off-the-ball movement, the running behind, and Jed Spence's power to get into the final third. But we've seen this build-up pattern with Spurs so much this season, with the six kind of dropping into the edge of the box. And one thing I loved about the midfield yesterday was how much rotation there was between Pape Matar Sarr, Lucas Bergvall and James Maddison. Bergvall is the one here coming into that six. Just pops it off first time to Radu Dragusin. How many times have we seen that? It's how Spurs love to build out. Dragusin out to Pape Matar Sarr, who's kind of taken up the right-back spot in this move, with Jed Spence moving inside. You can see Udogie on the other side moving inside as well. Sarr into Jed Spence again here, back to goal. This is one of the things I love about Jed Spence, and what I have seen, what I've liked from the limited minutes that we've seen him, is his strength when he's playing with his back to goal. He's able to turn people. He hasn't got necessarily a low centre of gravity like Porro has, where he's able to get out of those situations, but he kind of does it through brute force a lot of the time. And I think that physicality and that running power is something that can be really valuable to this Spurs team, and he shows that here. Just shrugs off the man. And again, you see James Maddison. If we kind of move it back, you might not be able to see, but if I can get a bit of a wider angle, you can see James Maddison, as soon as Pape Matar Sarr picks the ball up, he wants to make that movement in behind. He wants to attack that space. And we've seen that a lot so far this season with Maddison, kind of playing in that bit more of a deeper role rather than as that out-and-out 10. I've seen it so many times against Everton. He did this twice, where he just moves from that deeper position in midfield and attacks that space in behind and nearly scores a goal. And that's exactly what he did yesterday. He wanted to attack that space. Spurs don't get it forward maybe quickly enough for his liking in that instance, but we still build up. But because he's made that run into that position in the first place, that space is still there. He gets in between the two centre-halves into a much more optimal goal-scoring position, and Jed Spence just finds him. If I just hide myself there. Jed Spence, lovely little through ball, perfectly weighted for Maddison to run onto it, and James Maddison scores again for Spurs. A brace at the Etihad and a brace at St Mary's yesterday. And like I said, I saw a lot of similarities between the two performances. Very stark contrast in terms of the quality opposition. Although Man City won winning 11, maybe that's not so much the case right now. But Southampton obviously were poor yesterday. But Spurs took advantage. And I want to talk about the kind of rotation that we saw in midfield before we move on to the second goal. Again, you see James Maddison doing a lot of what he did against City here, peeling out to that left-back position, offering an option with Udogie, going more inverted, going inside. Here, little outside of the foot pass. He gets fouled. It bypasses the doggy, but it's Dom Solanke, who obviously had a quiet game yesterday. I thought he did a lot of good off the ball running to open up space in that final third. Obviously didn't have too many chances. But again here, Maddison wins the free kick. But again, we saw this so much against City with Solanke pushing out and dragging those centre-backs and dragging those midfielders up onto him. And Spurs can win a free kick and just sort of slow the game down. But I love that rotation that we did see in midfield. Then obviously Spurs get that second goal. Before I move on to the second goal, actually, what we saw with Jed Spence was something that we saw quite a lot in pre-season for that goal. If I just bring this up, this was the goal that Will Lancashire scored against Hearts in that first pre-season game. Here, you see him taking up this kind of central position, and he just has that power to run through midfields, and you can see Lancashire pointing him behind. It's a perfectly weighted pass, just like it was for Maddison yesterday, and he buries it. Like I said, this is something that we've seen quite a lot of with Spence in pre-season, and I'm really glad it kind of all came together for him yesterday. And one thing I really liked about Jed Spence's game yesterday was it allowed Dejan Kulusevski to come inside a lot more. And there's naturally a lot of talk about what Tottenham's best front three is. If I bring up the average positions, which, you know, don't really tell a hell of a lot in this game, because Kulusevski moved over to the left-hand side, so it's a little bit skewed. Obviously, he did spend a lot of kind of time hugging that touchline, but I want you to keep an eye on Son and Kulusevski here, because at half-time, I took this screenshot, and Lily White Lab did a great piece on Spurs' winger options going forward and the sort of profiles we need, and I think it was really sort of... There was a lot of good stuff that we saw in that first half yesterday, and I think it's exactly why I don't think Johnson and Son are great starting together. I think Kulusevski is a right winger and Son Heung-Min as a left winger works a lot better for the balance of the team and the balance of that attack. And I think one thing that made that evident yesterday was their average positions. I took this screenshot at half-time. Kulusevski coming a lot more central. Son Heung-Min staying higher and wider. And obviously, Son Heung-Min came off at half-time, so we can take his average position here as obviously verbatim, as on face value. Djed coming inside to create a lot more, allows that space to open up for Son, allows him to attack that space, do what he does best, and finish off chances. You don't want Sonny involved so much maybe in the build-up anymore. He's kind of lost that maybe ability as a 1v1 winger over the years. Obviously, that natural kind of decline with the pace and that explosiveness. But if you can allow Djed to kind of come inside as more of a number 10, playing as a right winger, it really opens up that space for Son. And I actually think with Jed Spence, again, you can't take too much from Spence's average position because obviously he moved over to left back about 25 minutes into the game. But one thing we did see was him kind of hugging this touchline a little bit more. There's a really good passage of play here with Djed coming that little bit deeper and Maddison's able to fire that ball off in behind to Spence. He can't get onto it, but one thing I love is the fact that he's staying kind of higher and wider and bombing on as more of a natural attacking right back. And I think that could really work for this system with the pace and the physicality that he's got. He presses the goalkeeper and it goes out of play. But it's something that we saw a lot at the Etihad as well. And again, Jed Spence wasn't playing in that game. But if I bring up the average positions for that one, obviously Dejan Kulusevski started as a right winger in that game. But again, you see how central he's come in. And it's something that we saw a lot of the Etihad as well with Dejan Kulusevski in that performance. Again, you can see here how much he came inside. It was Pedro Porro playing in that game. Pedro Porro was going around him quite a lot. You can see him staying a little bit wider there and getting up and round Kulusevski, allowing him to come inside and do what he does best. Because I think Kulusevski is at his best when he's affecting games in the middle of the pitch, but he still has the license to do that from out wide. And I think it creates a really nice balance in this front three with Sonny staying wider and being able to go and finish off chances. Let's move on to the second goal then, because it was a demolition from Spurs and there was a lot of nice stuff that we saw with this goal as well. If I just hide myself here, Radu Dragusin, who I thought was composed, was calm on the ball yesterday, as was Archie Gray, out to James Maddison on the right wing here. And you can see so many of the kind of screenshots that we've showed so far and so many of the screenshots that we're going to show James Maddison picking up so many different positions, and it just shows that when he's at his best, he really makes this Tottenham side tick. And I think he's been at his best for a lot longer this season than some Spurs fans will give him credit for. Here he picks the ball up on the right. Nice little combination with Jed Spence again there. And he said after the game that Son Heung-Min at the back post was his intended target. Maybe he's trying to find Solanke, I don't know. But obviously Solanke goes down. It's a bit of a mess from Southampton. The header sort of glances on and Sonny is running in at the back post and finishes it off very, very nicely. But yeah, James Maddison picking up so many different positions. And again, Son Heung-Min just attacking that back post. And it's something that I was just talking about. Kulusevski coming inside that a little bit more, allowing that room because he attracts more bodies onto him naturally. More people are drawn to the physical presences of Solanke and of Kulusevski in the centre of the pitch, allowing more space for Son to do what he does best and just be more efficient as a winger in this system. Brilliant goal. Again here, third goal. Fantastic from Spurs yet again. Starts with Maddison kind of picking up this deeper position, making us tick, just dropping deep, spraying passes. He drops one right in behind for Sonny to run onto. And again, Sonny is at his best when he's attacking space. We've known that for years when Harry Kane was obviously in the team. And I want to talk about Djed moving in off the right again here, because you can see him just peeling into the penalty area. This movement is really clever because it allows Dom Solanke to go and attack the more dangerous space. If I just bring Sonny in here, you can see the cross that he brings in, but you can see Solanke here attacking the centre of the box. And on another day, he scores that. The cross is just like a little bit behind him. But that's all down to Kulusevski's movement, dragging Walker-Peters and Manning with him to open up that space for Solanke to attack the more dangerous area as a centre-forward. Can't quite finish it, but Dejan Kulusevski absolutely does finish it. And it's 3-0 within 13 minutes. People will say that we might be better off with Johnson kind of playing on the right in these more open games. But I think Djed can be a box threat as well. Obviously, Johnson is at his best when he's attacking the box, attacking the far post. But Djed can be that threat in a different way. It's a great cross from Sonny. Obviously, Djed is there, follows it in, and Spurs are kind of in dreamland, really. 3-0 up inside 13 minutes. Now, this is where I want to bring Pape Matar Sarr into it and talk about him, because I thought it was such an excellent, mature performance yesterday. He's got an 18-year-old kid in Lucas Bergvall alongside him, making his first Premier League start for Spurs. And I think he stepped up to the mantle in terms of that maturity. I thought we saw a bit of a different Pape Matar Sarr yesterday. A deep-lying playmaker, switching balls, still doing all his great work off the ball and hoovering it up and regaining possession for Spurs. But his technical quality is improving all the time. And I think that's something that's evident when we go through some of these screenshots here. Here, Lucas Bergvall is the one kind of dropping into that deeper position, fires it out to Radu Dragusin. Dragusin sort of puts his foot on the ball. I'll hide myself here. Pape Matar Sarr picks the ball up deep. Maddison and Bergvall just push on a little bit in front of him, but he just rolls his studs on the ball and just fires out this lovely crossfield ball out to Son to chest it, and then Spurs are running, they're attacking Southampton's back line. It works itself out to Destiny Udogie. Spurs lose it, but Lucas Bergvall is straight in there to regain possession. Great off the ball work from him. Spurs recycle and get a corner. Again here, though, Pape Matar Sarr doing his defensive work, reading the game, getting that interception. And one thing I loved about Sarr yesterday was that, yes, he was spraying these crossfield balls, but I think when Spurs were so dangerous on transition, a lot of the time it was down to the fact that he was just releasing that ball quickly into the better players in terms of getting the ball up the pitch. In here to Solanke. Solanke turns and Spurs can move away. Here again, Pape Matar Sarr rolling his studs on the ball, switching the play. If I just move this across, you can see Son is the one here picking it up at the back post. Again, he's just putting his foot on the ball, showing that composure, spraying the ball about. It was like a playmaking performance from Pap yesterday. Here is what I loved so much. I absolutely love this. If I just hide myself here, you can see, I think it's Jed Spence who wins this header into Sarr. Just a little ball over the head. I think it's Walker-Peters who's maybe rushing onto, or Fernandes rushing onto him there. It shows that composure under pressure into Kulusevski. And here, this was fantastic as well from Pap. Receives the ball out to Jed Spence. Spurs sort of recycle it back all the way to Radu Dragusin. Spurs then move it forward. This was absolutely excellent from Sarr. I honestly stood up off my sofa and just clapped this. The touch from him there. Back to goal, under pressure. And we've talked about the kind of prioritisation of the physical ability and the technical ability in this team. And whether we've kind of gone too far one of those ways. But Pap, yesterday, back to goal. This little flick round the corner of, I think it's Fernandes, to get away. And again here, he drives forward and he's able to switch the play out from right to left, and Spurs are able to drive. It was just brilliant. Just look at that touch yet again. The composure under pressure. Like I said, his technical ability is improving all the time for me. And this is where it's a perfect time to move on and talk about the fourth goal, because we saw that in abundance again from him with the goal. The quick feet on the edge of the box. Destiny Udogie intercepts and he's able to drive at the back line. Sonny cutting inside and Pap receiving the ball here on the edge of the box. One thing maybe you've seen from Pap in the past, if I just hide myself again here, maybe he would take the safer option and play that ball out to Dejan Kulusevski, who might be in a better position to score. He might take the safer option, but he's aggressive with his first touch. It's ballerina feet inside the box. He dances through and finishes it. so much confidence flowing through the veins of Pape Matar Sarr. It was such a mature performance yesterday, and I absolutely loved it. And there's something about this midfield of Sarr, Bergvall, and Maddison, and the rotation in it. Obviously, it was the first time we saw it yesterday, but I really liked what I saw. And again, obviously, you have to take the quality of the opposition into account, etc., etc. Yes, but it was a midfield general's performance from Pap yesterday, and I absolutely loved it. Even little things like this from Pape Matar Sarr, just taking the kind of sting out of the game, playing these little one-touch passes into Bergvall here. Bergvall gives it back to him. Just the confidence, just to dummy that through his legs out to Pedro Porro. But again, we see the defensive qualities in his game, getting back and making that recovery, kicking the ball out of play, just being a little bit cheeky there. Just again, take the sting out of the game, just slow it down. We'll talk about that game management with Spurs. Again here, he's into intercept, showing the defensive side of his game, setting Spurs up for another counter-attack where Maddison is able to drive forward. Sonny gets that shot away at goal. Again here, just these little one-touch passes, just into Maddison, I'll have it back, out to Spence. Just playing the game at his pace. And again, you see the rotation in midfield. It's just fantastic. Maddison dropping into that deeper position now. Into Bergvall. This has all come about from Pape Matar Sarr. And you see where Pape Matar Sarr picks the ball up again here. Bergvall, the confidence to go in between those two players. And then Pape Matar Sarr, you get that drive from deep. I thought it was an excellent performance from Pap. And like I said, I do think there's a lot to like about this midfield. I called it before the game. I thought he'd go with it rather than playing Kulusevski in the middle. And it paid dividends for Spurs yesterday. And they just had so much control in that game. There was so much rotation. And I absolutely loved it. Now, the fifth goal... Well, actually, before we talk about the fifth goal, which was a masterpiece from Maddison, I want to talk about this passage of play that we saw just before the goal in the 43rd minute. Again, like I said, I thought there were so many parallels to the City performance at the Etihad in terms of the build-up, in terms of Maddison in that left-back role, drawing players onto him and being able to switch the ball out to the right to really be aggressive and get forward. And again, Pape Matar Sarr here. Look, I've had my doubts maybe about Pape Matar Sarr as a six, and I do think, naturally, when Bissouma's in this team, because of his physical presence and his ability to break the ball up or break the play up by winning the ball back a lot of the time, you see Bissouma naturally as that six, right? But I don't think there is a six in this team, and there certainly wasn't yesterday because I think there's so much rotation and there's so much comfortable feeling in those players in terms of picking up other people's positions. I have had doubts about Sarr being the six, but where his technical ability is improving all the time and where he's able to play under pressure, I don't worry so much about him being more of the lone midfielder in these kind of defensive situations. But again, it's never going to really be like that because Maddison's always there to offer a pass. Bergvall's always there to offer a pass. They're all happy to be in these situations under pressure where a six might find themselves. So if Pape Matar Sarr goes on to be Spurs' main defensive midfielder with two playmaking style midfielders ahead of him, I don't mind that. I do think we need to add a real destroyer in terms of that six into the squad, whether it's someone like a Johnny Cardozo or someone else. But I think I don't worry so much about Pap kind of playing there as much now without Bissouma alongside him or Bentancur maybe alongside him. I thought he was excellent yesterday. And again, you see him receiving the ball under pressure, going to his own corner flag here. Jed Spence is the one offering the pass. It goes back to Sarr. And again, playing under pressure and just luring them in and playing out, baiting the press from centre-back to centre-back. And it's a brilliant pass from Radu Dragusin to kind of split the pitch and Porro getting into these central positions and Spurs are able to go out wide. And then again, you see here, everything that we've talked about in this video kind of came together in this move. Decky then driving in from the right. You don't get this with Johnson. He picks the pass. Son again is the free man in space. And it's a bit of a powder puff finish, but it could and probably should have been a goal, really. But again, fifth goal. Now, before we actually get onto the finish itself, which was beautiful from Maddison, there was something I noticed in the build-up to the goal in terms of our pressing structure. I wanted to see more of this against Chelsea, where we were 2-0 up. We were still pressing in that 4-1-4-1 shape, really aggressive. This, to me, just looks a lot more balanced. We've got Bergvall and Sarr as those two holding players. Yes, the game situation is completely different. Yes, we are 4-0 up at this point, a few minutes before half-time. But Sarr and Bergvall there, and then you have that four in front. I just think that looks a little bit better. But the goal comes from Porro kind of making that headed clearance. Sarr driving forward, Maddison in a deeper position, works it all the way back to the centre halves, out to the right, back into the centre. And then Jed Spence as that left back, we'll finish on Jed Spence, is able to drive forward. Sonny, this is a beautiful pass with the outside of his foot. And then Maddison, I feel like I've seen him do this so many times where he wants to check back inside the box, commit the player, and just finish it like that. That just put the icing on the cake of what was an excellent first half performance from Spurs, and a performance again from James Maddison that proves his importance to this side. I've said it so many times. I found the narrative around him so weird. I think maybe other than Dane Kulusevski, he's arguably been our best player. And I think that's 10 goal involvements now in 13 Premier League starts. Brilliant from Maddison yesterday. Fantastic. But let's finish on Jed Spence, because there was a lot of good stuff to talk about with him in his game. Again, like I said, in terms of driving forward, offering Dane Kulusevski the space to come inside that little bit more. You can see that here. Again, the defensive recoveries, the strength just to hold off Sulemana there. Here, what I loved was his just little bounce pass first time into Kulusevski, and that willingness to drive into the box. You can see the movement straight away. Composure inside the box to do that little Cruyff turn and cross with his left foot. And again, here you see the same on the left-hand side, that ability to drive forward and get into a crossing position. Look, this cross goes to no one. It's intercepted. But again, you can picture Kulusevski coming in here for the kind of that cutback finish. But it is intercepted. But I thought it was really good from Spence. I thought it was really good from Spurs. Second half, obviously, we took our foot off the gas a little bit, managed the game. And other than that, a doggy injury, which hopefully is just a precaution. It was pretty much perfect for Spurs yesterday. Went pretty much perfectly. So I was really happy with it. Really happy with the performance. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on Maddison's role, that midfield, Pape Matar Sarr, all that good stuff. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like the video, and up the Spurs.